Monday, October 6th, 2025. I am your chairperson, Councillor Vivian Santos for the Point Douglas Ward. I also have other committee members, Councillor Matt Allard, Councillor Sean Dobson. We also have members from the Winnipeg Public Service here with us. And I believe, I just want to quickly acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homelands of the Red River Métis that we all have the privilege of living on. Also want to acknowledge our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Treaty number 3, together with our neighbors in Treaty 5 where our hydroelectricity comes from. I need a motion for Councillor Cindy Gilroy will not be here due to city businesses. Okay. That's moved by Councillor Dobson. All those in favor? Aye. And that's carried unanimously. I need someone to move the minutes of meeting held on September 8, 2025 to be taken as read and confirmed. Okay. Councillor Dobson. All those in favor? Aye. Aye, and that's carried unanimously. We do not have any delegations.
We do not.
Anybody here in the gallery want to register to speak to any items? No? Okay. Perfect. We will move straight on to reports. Up first, we have the Emergency Vehicle Preemption Pilot Project. I believe we have members from Winnipeg Fire Paramedics. Please introduce yourself and then introduce your staff that are down there.
Sure.
Thanks.
Morning. My name is Tom Wallace. I'm a Deputy Chief responsible for support services and 911 communications with the Fire Paramedic Service. We're here today to speak to our Emergency Vehicle Preemption Pilot Project. This was initially discussed in February of this year at this committee. Our pilot concluded in April of this year, and we're now prepared to present the results. So I'm joined today by my colleagues, Linda Hattuch, the WFPS Program Manager, Cassidy Hooper, and Morgan Glasgow from Traffic Signals Branch. So I'll leave it to them to present. That's right.
Good morning. So I'd like to present today on the findings from the pilot project for the emergency vehicle preemption pilot that occurred last year. We're going to walk through what we did over the course of the pilot, our findings. We're going to explain the technology and then briefly go over our findings and the future plans. So it all really starts with, why would we need this new technology? What is the problem that it's solving? We're going to talk about the research, validation process, the RFP, technology pilot, evaluation, and implementation. So the problem really stems from the fact that as the city has grown, you see our population at almost 500,000 in 1974. Over the last 50 years, you can see the gray area expanding. The red dots are our stations. So we haven't had as many stations expanding as we've had population expansion. So the consequence of all of the growth and population gain of the city and our future plans, as we see 2024 onwards, the greenfield expansion plans, is that we are getting slower at getting to all of our calls, both fire and EMS. And there are more calls, more people, more calls, and the expansion of the city means further distances to travel. So that's the fundamental problem. We are now looking at response times for fires of 7.7 minutes on average when we're aiming for 6. So that's the underlying issue. And as a department, we're looking for ways to address that problem or trying to reduce our response times. The secondary problem, or probably equally important, is that because we're going to so many calls, incidents happen on the way to calls, particularly at intersections. So here's an example of something that happens monthly. Intersection, fire, an ambulance goes through and it gets hit by a driver who thought they had right of way, didn't hear the lights and sirens and didn't see the side of the lights and hits the ambulance. Now that response is delayed and perhaps we have yet another incident. The cost of those accidents are significant for us. So that's happening monthly. We are seeing injuries to the public because of them, injuries to our staff, and impact on our vehicles. So when these vehicles are being repaired, it's to the tune of over $1 million. Last year, we wrote off a vehicle and we had several vehicles that were in the shop for quite a while. Actually, we wrote off 2 vehicles because of intersection collisions. So obviously something we want to prevent. During the study time or the pilot time, with the help of the Traffic Control Center, we started videotaping and collecting data on all intersection collisions with emergency vehicles. And what we discovered was these secondary accidents that were occurring with equal frequency monthly, where the fire truck or ambulance is going through an intersection, and because it is causing kind of a wake of anxiety with drivers before and after the vehicle goes through, we get these secondary incidents. Now the fire crew is responding now to that incident, not to the one they're going to, and potential injuries and time loss. So secondary accidents happening monthly. So we did some research and we did quite a lot of research looking across North America. What are some of the options to address this? One technology that came up as being effective in improving response times and reducing intersection collisions was emergency vehicle preemption. So it's a technology that allows a green light when a vehicle is approaching an intersection. And you're going to hear a lot more about how that technology works. I'm going to pass it over to Morgan Glasgow, who's going to talk more about it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Glasgow, and I'm with the Traffic Signals branch. I'm also here with Cassie Zorobeck. Thanks for having us. So a few years ago, we did a feasibility study to determine if it's worthwhile to do a pilot here. The key findings from that feasibility study were 20% reduction in response time. So that equals almost a minute for the average trip. It would help extend the coverage area by providing improved response times from the existing stations. As Linda mentioned, it can prevent almost 1 collision per month that result from vehicles entering on red. There was a benefit cost analysis that positive range from 12 to 23, depending on the extent of the rollout after the pilot. The one downside is that EVP can cause additional delays with general traffic. Anytime the normal operation of a traffic signal is interrupted for an emergency vehicle, it would cause some localized congestion until the traffic operation gets back to normal. After the feasibility study, it was a success, so we put out an RFP, a 2-phase RFP. Phase 1 was the pilot, which was a small-scale trial where we wanted to look at this system functionality, whether it actually works, the accuracy of it, the impacts to traffic, and how well it works with existing emergency services. Phase 2 was a citywide implementation. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 would be the next one where we roll it out into more intersections across the city. So the technology, this was the basics here. It's a hybrid system using cell network, GPS, and radio. There's a device at the intersection as well as one in the vehicle. The one in the vehicle is connected to the turn signals, the brakes, the lights and sirens, the door switches. And so we need to configure the detection zones when emergency vehicles are detected, as well as configuring what the intersection does when that preemption call comes in. So best case scenario for emergency vehicle preemption is that the light is already green. And in that case, when that approaching emergency vehicle is detected, it'll just stay green, hold it until the fire truck or ambulance clears the intersection. Worst case scenario is the side street crosswalk just started. So we do not terminate the crosswalks early. We serve the full countdown. That's for pedestrian safety. So the worst case scenario is the side street crosswalk just starts. We would turn that to the countdown right away, serve the full countdown, and then amber, red, and then a green light for the direction that the emergency vehicle is coming from, with enough warning to clear out whatever queues in front of that emergency vehicle. And then lastly, the fire truck or ambulance would make it through the intersection. So this means we try to detect vehicles around 45 seconds out from the intersection. The older radio technology doesn't quite work that well, but GPS allows us to detect vehicles from as far out as we need to. The technology that we're using, it's web-based, so online from our offices, we set up the detection zones. This quick overview. So a very basic intersection would have a detection zone for each approach. And then on the image on the right, we see kind of the trails of the real-time emergency vehicles as they're going around the city to see where they've been. And that also helps us look back at the runs and kind of troubleshoot. If there's calls, if it's taking too long to activate signals, we can use the reporting tools there to fine tune it. For the pilot area, we decided to do 17 intersections and 14 WFPS vehicles, all centered around Osborne Village and Confusion Corner. So mostly on Osborne, we have some on Pembina, a couple on Donald, and one on Corridon. And we chose this location because it's busy looking at response volumes, as well as general congestion traffic. There's a variety of traffic signal infrastructure there. So it's a good real test case for this technology. We did visit all the nearby stations and provide some training to the drivers before it was implemented, as well as afterwards to get feedback. I showed a previous image with the detection zones, and it was very, very simple. In reality, it doesn't work that great when it's that simplified. So the traffic signals branch, we did drive-through tests with a test unit in our vehicles to make sure that those EVP calls were going into the intersections when they needed to. We were also able to monitor using the reporting tools on that online platform, and using traffic cameras to go back and track these runs, see what went wrong, see what went right. And then, of course, we could calibrate, update those detection zones and the rules as well. So getting into the more fun stuff. Okay, so there's going to be a video here, but the top half of this is a map of one run from in this case, it's a southbound ambulance going through Osborne Village. The intersections light up bright green when that EVP call comes into them, and then they turn more of a duller green once the ambulance clears. On the bottom half is a speed profile. So the horizontal axis is the time of day, and the speeds on the vertical axis. In this case, you can see the ambulance is, its first red line is on the bottom. It's entering the pilot area. Before that, the speed was pretty choppy, fairly low, as they're decelerating and accelerating through the downtown where there's no EVP. You can see in that area labeled the pilot area, once they get into Osborne Village, it's a congested area. Speed is consistently high. It shows just under 60 kilometers per hour as they are getting green lights throughout the whole area. This is another example that I'll play the video again, but it's an ambulance coming from the south this time, northbound through Osborne Village. So again, you can watch the ambulance traverse the pilot area, see when those calls are coming in based on how far away it is. And then on the bottom, you can see the speed as the ambulance goes through the area. So it's going northbound, getting triggered quite a ways out. And then when the ambulance passes the intersection, you can see that that call is dropped. That one on the very south it did work correctly. It's just the tool was not showing it right. So in this case, if you look at the bottom half, you can see once it leaves the pilot area and turns east down Broadway, it starts getting a little choppier as it slows down for red lights or having to clear through queues there. Oh yes, we have a video for the same run using traffic cameras. So it takes a little bit longer because there's a little bit of overlap from the videos when the when the ambulance comes into view. Nice. Full screen. So this is looking from Stradbrook. You can see that ambulance come up under the Osborne underpass. In the distance, it's going northbound. This is during morning rush hour, I think, or maybe in the afternoon rush hour, but it's busy. You can tell that vehicles are getting green lights. The queues are clearing before the emergency vehicle gets there. We flip to another camera at Roslyn. We can see that the ambulance is approaching. It's going to come into view, get through River without stopping, and then get through Roslyn. So this is seeing it in motion. This is kind of the best way to see the success here. And then Broadway camera, we'll see the northbound left of Broadway is queued up. Ambulance comes into view. You can see that you get a green light to try and clear out that queue as that ambulance is approaching.
What you could see with these runs on Osborne is that the emergency vehicles were getting to 55 kilometers driving through Osborne, which is amazing. So it's similar if you're driving in your car, it could take you 15 minutes to go 4 kilometers down Osborne, and we're getting through there in 5-6 minutes. That's really good.
So the general findings from the pilot, most preemption calls were less than 50 seconds. So that means the emergency vehicle gets through the intersection from when it's first detected in 50 seconds. And the busiest intersections only see about 13 calls a day. So 13 calls over 24 hours. There's not a lot of interruptions, and we did not see really much traffic impact from that. Complaints from the public. There was only 2 3-in-1s that we found that could have been related to EVP. It's tough when they're coming in to know if it's directly tied to that, but there's only 2. So we were trying to look for 3-in-1 calls that came into traffic signals about the operation, and this was great. Only 2. That's not many at all. The crews from the stations, at first they did not really notice any changes, and a lot of that is just getting green lights. That's not really sticking with you. You kind of take it for granted when you get green lights. After they had a better understanding of what's actually happening, how it operates, they were able to recognize when preemption was actually working for them versus when it was going to be green anyways. Feedback from Station 4, which is the station right at Osborne and Stradbrook, was very positive. I kind of touched on this earlier, but congestion caused by EVP, we were looking for this from the traffic cameras that are out on the streets, going back looking at busy reporting areas. Traffic signals did not notice any significant congestion caused by EVP in this pilot area.
Did you ask the opposite? The opposite question? Are you presuming that it's going to reduce levels of service because it increases the levels of service for one block of the street, and on top of that, it queues traffic where sometimes Winnipeggers will line up in one long line and not fill up the block? Seems to me there would be 2 levels of service increases there.
Yes. So going into it, we knew that from the feasibility study to expect that whenever this happens, whenever the normal operation from the intersection is interrupted, there will be some delays until it kind of gets back in step with this normal coordination.
I have one question. So the light just turned green for me. And I'm all set to go, and then it just turned red. I'm one of those people, you know, we're gonna cross, but now it turned green because the emergency vehicle's coming
Yeah.
through. I don't know why it's happening like that. Is there advertising for the general public so that they know that if you hear a siren coming, that light may change?
Yeah, so
Different from the regular schedule.
at the start of the pilot, there was some media, whatever you want to call it. Yes, we did try to get the word out that was what was happening. I think
We could do some change, some communications. If we do the full implementation, that can be part of that implementation plan. Is there communication strategy when we feel there's enough intersections impacted that we need to start explaining what's going on to the public? We could put some messaging out there.
That'd be great, thanks.
that's the kind of 3-in-1s that we were expecting when we did this pilot. Weird operation that the public may not realize is attributed to EVP, complaining that there's a malfunction or something like that.
I just want people to know that the light changed because you can hear that siren coming and that they know, okay, you know, don't go through it. Don't turn right onto that lane because there's an emergency vehicle coming.
Yep. The idea is with EVP, everyone, emergency vehicle drivers and commuters out on the road can just follow the traffic signals without having to make decisions on how to deal with that emergency vehicle.
Okay, we good?
So next step, wider implementation. So larger implementation is scheduled for 26-27. It will require some more staffing at traffic signals to make the intersection, to install the intersection devices, as well to configure the devices in the platform. We will have the vehicle devices installed in all WFPS vehicles by the radio shop in 2026, and that installation will occur concurrent with the replacement of the portable radios. So the question is, where are we going to install this? We've selected 420 more intersections, and that's based on how many we think we can install over a 2-year period. This map is our first draft based on emergency vehicle trip volumes, as well as high-speed roads and intersections with collision history.
Another question, once this is fully implemented, any estimate on the response time to reduction of the actual time?
So the feasibility study highlighted around 20% savings. That's what 20 seconds per intersection came out to. It's really tough to quantify that, especially with construction that's always happening or responses by different times of day. Obviously, it's going to have a lot more.
But it will be significant regardless.
Yeah, I think the video that we showed is the best proof concept that it works. You can see Cassie and I, who are familiar with the traffic signal operations there, we can see that it's deviating from its normal operation and getting a green light early enough so that those emergency vehicles approaching do not have to come to a stop, or hopefully not have to slow down much either.
Modeling an extra minute so that we're saving a minute on our response time. So it's almost taking our 4-kilometer radius almost to a 5 is another way of thinking about it.
Okay.
Extra minute travel.
And then we're also working with the stations to get feedback on where we would want to, what intersection we want to choose, but also how we want the intersection to operate when there's an approaching emergency vehicle, whether it's showing the turn signal, stopping oncoming traffic. There's a couple different things that we can do. Lastly, just wanted to highlight of the proposed cost for this project. About half of it is the hardware, the devices, and the other half is City of Winnipeg cost, whether it's labor or resources.
So this was submitted for the 2026 capital budget and is still being considered. And there's an operating cost annually for the licensing of the glance system and support for the hardware. So if the hardware breaks, we can get a replacement part sent to us. So that's the 156,000 annually. And we're covering, that's for 437 intersections. So if we did want to do more, that operating cost could go up.
Thank you for presenting.
I've-
Yeah, you
I've
guys have questions? Absolutely, go
I
for
have a
it.
bunch of questions. Out of that cost, you mentioned 2 total losses for vehicles, $1 million each.
Last year,
Is there not a business case to show that the city might be interested in just all things being equal? How much money the city might save in terms of not having to repair vehicles involved in collisions and NPI premiums?
yeah, that's the case. It's
Is that
good.
part of the analysis though? I saw the cost, I didn't see the savings. I heard you say, I heard you.
We've looked back and our mechanical maintenance records don't indicate, yes, this was due to an intersection collision. We have intersection, every collision with our vehicles, we have a report. It's not always clear whether it was an intersection report. So going through them, we could identify that we have one intersection collision on average a month, but not necessarily the associated mechanical repair costs. But there were enough incidents, especially last year, where we had 2 vehicles written off and a bunch of other repairs to ambulances where we could see. There's no doubt if we could reduce even one of those, we would be saving the 150.
Right. So just in terms of a statement that may not be a full actuarial accounting of all of the costs saved, but is it possible to come up with a type of statement like the city of Winnipeg would save at least this much, given what is known, based on, because there may not be a catalog for every case, but there may be a catalog for some cases. And if you have a catalog for the cases, you could say the cost would include at least this many cases, adding the number of dollars relative to the cost of the city of Winnipeg.
So last year we wrote off a fire truck, so that the 1.5.
Well, yeah, so like that's a case where I'm sure we could, like a political, it's not an accounting statement, but I think it's a pretty clear statement of look at how much we could save. I mean, not to mention the safety for the public and for the city of Winnipeg workers that goes, and that's hard to quantify, but these are dollars that we can quantify.
I think we can make some statements. I mean, the caveat I want to put on there is the lights and sirens still create anxiety. There still might be intersection collisions, even with a green light to go through. So, it's kind of.
You want to put an asterisk there,
Yes.
by all means.
And I mean, I can go back and try to pull out a few more cases to find a 5-year average to the best of my ability.
It seems to me that this case would make itself if we had that other side of the ledger. And the other thing is, I'm going to try through the public service. I really want to challenge you on the levels of service assumptions, because I find that in Winnipeg, in my campaigns, unrelated campaigns to promote zipper merging in Winnipeg, that in Winnipeg, we still underuse our roads. And what I saw in your diagrams were blocks filled with vehicles, like every line occupied. But during construction, you often see 1 lane occupied and 2 or 3 or 4 lanes not occupied. So I challenge those assumptions that there would be like overall system impact on levels of service, because I think what I saw is Winnipeggers de facto zipper merging, because on one side you had the green and on the other side you had people filling the space, which is how you're meant to use a road network. So I'm not sure about the reduction in
consulting when we asked them to quantify traffic impact. That's one of their comments, was that every year we put out of service a bunch of lanes for construction and effectively have significantly more impact than EVP would have. So that was one of the comments they made too, that they can't quantify the negative impact of EVP, but we deal with adjustments to traffic every year as roads are worked on. So
Well, once again, I'm sure through you to the public service, I would challenge you on the negative impact on EVP, because I think if you look at it from a systems perspective, I think there may be less of an impact. It may actually be a benefit in some cases. And I did have another question, two questions. One is, what happens if there are emergencies that crisscross the wrong ways? What happens then?
So, yeah, it's a first come, first served operation. We can attribute priorities to different directions. But as of right now in the pilot area, everyone's given the same priority and it's first come, first served. So once that first vehicle clears the intersection, that call is dropped, and then it would pick up the next one in line and try to serve that.
Makes sense. And then again, Madam Speaker, through you to the public service. I appreciate the clear, the respect of the clear on the green for the pedestrian. Is there anything else that can be done for pedestrian safety? Because I guess I'm envisioning higher speed vehicles, emergency vehicles. The checks are being done with GPS, presumably around vehicles, not necessarily around pedestrians. I mean, I don't know if that's a fully formulated question. If it's not, I'll go to my next one, which is,
Before you get to that,
oh, you're good? That's enough of a complete question?
during the preemption, when we have a green light for the direction for the emergency vehicle, no pedestrians are served during that time. And that just allows it to terminate and go back to normal operations as quickly as possible. So that was another thing we were looking for. I think it can be odd for pedestrians to be waiting, expecting to get a light, the white indication to walk, and then not coming up. So that was something we're also aware of, that there could be 3-on-1s for. But I think when people see the emergency vehicle drive by with lights and sirens, they recognize that, okay, this is probably tied together.
Yeah. My maybe last questions are, I'm sure through the public service. How many intersections do we have that are not yet part of the transportation? We still have some manual ones that we have to go and manually change, or are they all online?
They're all remotely accessible. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then the one word I didn't see there, and I don't know if it's useful or feasible, but watching self-driving cars in other jurisdictions, I didn't see LiDAR there, which is like LaserDAR. But that's another scope, I guess.
For like EVP technology, you're talking?
Well, not specifically EVP, but apparently some of the best self-driving cars don't just use cameras. They use radar, LiDAR, cameras. They use all of the things. So
to detect pedestrians in the way, or
you can detect things at the speed of light. So whatever you want to look at, I guess. Anyway, this is very interesting. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the presentation.
Councillor Dobson, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay,
good.
so I just want to quickly touch light on a bit of the operations. Because there was a statement that was made about it was kind of hard to quantify this here. Due to roadway changes and construction, during the pilot project, a direct time comparison between previous run times and posts were not feasible. So could you talk me through what it would look like through construction season? Like, how does that affect your operations, and what are the other alternatives, I guess, for EVP? Like, you're notified and then you would actually change the route of your operations? Maybe you could walk me through that example.
Sure. Yep. So we rely on our crews to be familiar with their areas. Each call that they attend to, they're given a proposed route on their hardware in the unit. So those proposed routes don't take into account construction. So crews may, if they know their area well, elect a longer route, but it's actually a shorter time to avoid construction, if that answers your question.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, another one.
yeah,
I'd just like to also mention.
sure.
We were hoping to be able to compare similar runs from previous years to the pilot year.
Mhm.
So assuming, engine 4 leaving from in the middle of the EVP area were to respond to a call within a zone, how do those times compare in our pilot compared to the previous times? And part of the inability to do that was we don't have there was no call at exactly the same calls at exactly the same times of day that we could say exactly like for like timing. In addition, there was the construction on Osborne southbound and construction on the bike lane that went in for Stradbrook. So those things changed from the historic to the pilot period, so that impacted response times. So it was very difficult to do with 17 intersections, a like for like comparison in that zone. That's the comment.
And then, I guess during the pilot project timing, it didn't really note it in here, but were there any collisions through those months during the pilot project? Were there any vehicular collisions, any pedestrian collisions, or those after occurrence collisions during the pilot project?
The collision reporting does not indicate whether there's an emergency vehicle involved. So
Why not?
But I'm asking the question for
question.
Well, that sounds like something that should be reported, but I digress. Go ahead.
We do. So fire paramedic services documents every incident when we have a collision or an accident with their vehicles. So we didn't report anything on our side. So if there was kind of a secondary collision, we don't know about it. You didn't know about it.
We wouldn't know about it unless we caught it on the camera and noticed it, and there are no cases of that
Okay, during the pilot project.
during the pilot. Yeah, in the pilot area.
In the pilot area. Okay.
Two more.
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
One is, I know the traffic management center feeds Waze. Will we feed Waze with this? Because that would be a net new benefit to the public for those who use Waze and the network for the reduction of the impact of the traffic network for those who use Waze in the routes that they choose.
At this point, there's no connection between any preemption call coming in and that being presented on Waze. I'm not sure if that's possible, but again, those preemption calls only last for 50 seconds at a time
Right.
or less, right?
There's, and the public service is still feeding Waze.
We are still, yes.
Okay, if more Winnipeggers used it, it would work better, is my understanding, but we're still
Correct.
feeding it. Okay. My second question, Madam Chair, through the public service is, this seems to be a very good candidate for road safety strategy dollars. I mean, I know it's not being framed in that, but there are road safety strategy dollars. I remember looking at a $15 million envelope when I was chair of public works for it had different name then, but I was frustrated at that money not moving as quickly as I'd like to see it. I know things have changed with Councillor Lukes and the road safety strategy, but this is a budget, I guess, a budget submission that's being made on behalf of emergency services, not on behalf of like the road safety strategy. That's a question.
Sounds like a good opportunity.
Okay, because it seems to me it could come from either or. If it is something that benefits road safety, which I think it does based on the videos that I've seen.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah, I did have couple more questions. So with respect to the map where you had shown 420 intersections, you probably highlighted it in your presentation, but remind me again why we're not doing all of the intersections. I believe there's 600 and, yeah, a
Yeah.
little over 700 intersections. How did you come up with the criteria to choose the 420 intersections?
There's a financial piece, so we've been forecasting 1.4 million for the project. And we were trying to stay within the 30% class. So previously we had submitted class 3, and we were trying to stay within the 30% plus or minus. So that bumped us up to the 1.7, but we felt that with the pilot, we realized the cost of the implementation was more than anticipated. Hence, we stuck to the budget and identified the 420 that we could do in a 2-year period. Again, nothing stops us from, if more funding is available, doing more. There are some intersections where we're not certain the utility would be significant. Cassidy's done the analysis and can explain what we chose not to apply for initially.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that 420 isn't everything we would necessarily like to do. That was partially, like Morgan said, 210 a year is what we expect could be installed, and it's only a 2-year project right now. So we were limited to that 420, and then looking at all the intersections and trying to decide where that 420 would best be used. So like Morgan mentioned, we were looking at the emergency vehicle volumes, where the trucks are driving most often. If they're not driving on a road very often, it's probably not as helpful to have EVP there. We're looking at the road speeds. We were looking at the commuter, like regular traffic volumes. We were looking at the type of signal operation that we have there. We did look at past collisions. There was a whole bunch of data that we were trying to put together to make the best selection of 420, but also, as Morgan mentioned, we're planning to bring that to the stations and get their feedback on which intersections in their area they think are most important to have it. So that's still a preliminary selection.
I have another one.
Yeah, I feel like
So,
every
Madam
time I
Chair,
ask a
Madam
question,
Chair,
you get
through you,
bigger.
the public service. Well, it's just I keep hearing about cost, and I understand that the discipline, the public servants that we're speaking to right now, you're talking about things that are like basically like scientifically provable. And I'm thinking of the economics reports that inform our council decisions, and there's a big star right beside any economic report that says all things being equal, and you're governing yourself at a higher standard. But one cost I can definitely quantify, and that our asset management people can definitely quantify, is what is the cost of not doing preemption relative to the infrastructure and the staff necessary in order to take the place of preemption system, all things being equal. And I'm pretty sure that $1 million that you just showed is a bargain relative to, and I think those numbers are existing, but some level of analysis would be required for someone other than a city councillor to say, well, I think it's worth this many millions of dollars. But we should have a fully loaded, like the other side of the ledger, like fully loaded deferred maintenance, increased staff, increased operations. Like, you're showing the one path that has costs. Yes, it has costs, but how much are you saving the city in the future, all things being equal, if we had to go with the traditional delivery service model? And I think your case is making itself, but again, like to another order of magnitude, maybe. So I don't know if we can get more numbers, but I feel like if we had more numbers here, it wouldn't be $1 million cost. It would be like, we're saving this much over time. That's my question statement. You don't need to answer now if you don't want to.
Make a good point. Maybe we should have aimed a little higher with our ask there.
Well, I'm just saying, like, The Economist, one of the reasons I didn't study economics is that star. All things being equal, but I hear an analysis that doesn't do that. You're looking at the things that you can definitely quantify and prove, but I think if you look at the overall system, you can make a very, very good case. Not that you've not already done that today, but I think there's a financial case to be made.
So I think I'd like to get approval for the funding that we've asked for, get that first year underway, have the feedback from the Traffic Management Center about how year one went and what we can learn from it. and then revise, and we can do an over expenditure report for the supplemental cost required to do the remaining intersections. So if we can get through that the first year and validate it is costing this much to do it, it's not more, it's not less, then I will happily submit an over expenditure report for this.
I think some of those numbers already exist, to be fair, but I think scraped up. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, and I will provide this, whatever we have for supporting costs, what we can dig up.
Is that, so you don't really need like a council direction? Is that something that you guys can take away and then?
Well, we can always, if you like the direction, if we ask it,
I don't mind that direction.
if we ask of it formally, then it
I'm
does.
just trying to want to also respect the amount of, work that you guys have done to date. Is it something that you can take away and kind of add to in your next reporting? Yeah. Okay. So
Just
something we
they-
can do
That's a recommendation.
as a recommendation. Okay.
I mean, as politicians, if we like the direction.
Yeah.
And if we give direction here, it certainly will, I think, support the efforts of staff to go in that direction relative to the rest of council and all the other priorities. So if you are interested in pursuing it, I certainly think a formal direction probably helps the case.
Okay, I just wanna,
Sure.
it's not all dollars and cents. Ultimately, if you can reduce the response times, it's gonna make an effect. It's, that ambulance got there 1 minute earlier than it normally would have. That's huge. It's hard to quantify that in dollars and cents, but that's very, very important to reduce response times.
And I just do have one final question. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, so the
It doesn't get me going.
Get you going. For the implementation, you had mentioned here, crew of 2 signal technicians will be hired to install. Is that part-time, temporary, full-time?
It would be full-time for the 2-year term. So it takes a crew, so 2 guys in a van, 2 people in a van, pretty much 1 full day for an intersection. So right now, we only have 1 crew, so we can't devote their time full-time to EVP installations. So we'd be hiring 2 more staff for the 2-year term.
And that's built into the city of Winnipeg costs.
Correct. Same with another signal timing engineer to help with the calibration, detection, zone configuration.
Okay, and so then after the 2 years, I'm assuming there'll be some maintenance costs afterwards. You don't have it built into here, or is that part of the 938, the maintenance and operation ongoing after the 2 years of implementation?
That is not built into that
Okay,
cost.
do you have an estimate of what ongoing yearly maintenance costs would be? Or is that just going to be absorbed into the TMP Public Works?
Traffic Signals has their own operation maintenance budget for all the systems that are intersections.
Okay,
So it would be absorbed into that.
I don't have any other questions. Good. No other questions? Okay, saying none. All right. I'll look for a mover of the report to be received as information.
I am ready to move it, but if you, Madam Chair, if you're looking for more reporting at some point, I'd look at the public
I think
service.
let's go through the budget first and get that
Sure.
first phase in and then come
Okay.
back and circle back and.
So moved for information, Madam Chair.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, moving on to our next report, Winnipeg Public Service. We have 3 of them, so I guess we could do all 3 of them at the same time.
If you wish.
Sure.
Morning, Madam Chair,
Moving.
committee members. My name is Jeff Wiggett. I'm the board secretary and executive director for the Winnipeg Police Board.
This is your first committee meeting?
It is,
Okay,
yes.
welcome.
Thank you. So I'm here on 3 bylaw required annual reporting documents from the police board. The first one is the audited statement of revenues and expenses for the Winnipeg Police Service for 2024. The document is reported to the agenda and be part of the record there. The independent audit is produced as an added level of transparency and accountability in the police services budget. This has been approved already by the police board and is now being passed along through this committee to council for information. The report confirms what was previously reported through SPC Finance. Total expenses for the police service last year were 345.2 million. Revenues were 72.4. Overall, on the budget last year, WPS came in $4.2 million under. There are some noteworthy increases if you look at that report line through line. Expenses were up over the previous year, 26.5 million. Revenues were also up 14 million. The largest attributable factor to the increase comes through some provincial initiatives that the province of Manitoba funded, the Integrated Violent Offender Apprehension Unit and some downtown foot patrol units. Largely increases on the salary side, but expenses that were offset by revenue from the province. If you'd like me just to speak through all three, unless there's any particular questions.
We're okay with that.
Sure. I think it's number 3 on your agenda is the statement of expenditures for the police board for 2024. Naturally much smaller budget than the police service. There was just under $380,000 in expenses for the board. The largest components of those are the sort of people expenses when it comes to honorariums for board members, office space, salaries for staff. Some other large expenses that came in 2024. We have a biannual requirement to conduct a citizen satisfaction survey to inform some of the priorities and objectives that the board set. So that was carried out in 2024. Overall, the board also in the black and under budget for 24. Item number 4 on your agenda is the 2024 annual report for the police board. There's some a summary there of the activities that the board undertook for the year, as well as statements of expenses for the police service and the board. Some highlights, the recruitment process for the new chief of police was initiated in 2024 and wrapped up in early 2025. That citizen satisfaction survey that I mentioned was conducted over the summer months. And then the ongoing responsibilities of the board in monitoring the financials of the police service and their progress made towards addressing the strategic priorities and objectives that were set in the previous strategic plan. On pages 13 through 18 of that report, there are a number of stats and indicators that are provided in assistance of measuring the success in achieving some of those objectives that were provided. I won't read through them all. Some highlights. In the downtown, there was an objective set by the board for the police service to provide a visible and proactive presence and build relationships through community engagement. For the year, 9,601 hours of foot patrol were spent by WPS members in the downtown, and over 1,600 spent specifically on transit corridors in the downtown area. We look at 2025, I only have numbers at this point through June of this year. The foot patrol hours are expected to increase even more, given some of those dedicated positions that are out there deployed. We may not see the same number of hours on transit corridors, given the recent announcement of members actually being on the buses. So it may not be a great apples to apples comparison of what that looks like in 2025, but I think overall we will see increased efforts in the downtown and increased efforts on transit for some safety initiatives there.
For that in 2016, I think. Thank you for that.
On the traffic front, over 11,000 speeding offenses were cited by officers at the roadside, and over 92,000 photo radar tickets were issued in 2024. And some others in terms of there's been a demonstrable increase in what are referred to as special events or sort of public demonstrations, protests, gatherings. So for 2024, WPS monitored 547 of those events, with over 19,500 hours of assigned police resources. So it continues to be a significant impact on police resources, both in terms of time, resources, and obviously the financials that are attributed to that. Some really positive increases in the use of technology last year continuing on into this year, 48,000 crimes were reported online as opposed to traditional revenues of attending a police station or making a phone call. Almost 59,000 criminal record checks were processed online. And as well in 2024, the service saw the deployment of what are called connected officer programs, which are increased mobile technology for officers to do things like take notes and statements and capture evidence electronically on their phone and have it through the cloud automatically entered into record management systems to really speed up some of the times that it takes to get the sort of back end work done that used to be a lot of pen and paper at the station. So that's allowing officers more time out on the street and being able to respond to calls for service. Overall, last year, the number of crimes reported to police decreased by 0.8%. The crime severity rate for the city of Winnipeg down 5.2%. Violent crime severity had the first meaningful decrease in over a decade, and what's referred to as the clearance rate for police. So that is the rate at which a crime is reported to police and ultimately ends in a charge being laid for that incident. That rate improved in 2024 by about 2.5%. Those are just some items that I pulled out of the reports. I'm happy to answer if there's any specific questions on all three.
Madam Chair.
I think I noted here in the annual report, the 5-year strategic plan was from 2020 to 2024.
That's right.
So now I'm assuming we're going into the next 5-year strategic plan.
That's right. So it did.
Walk me through that.
Yeah, so it did sort of formally end in 2024. A decision was made by the board to carry it over through 25, given the recruitment process for a new chief of police, and entered into some collaborative discussions there to inform what will be a new plan, which is set to be for 2026 through 2030. So the board has been out over the last several months consulting and engaging with the community across a broad number of sectors. We've invited council, I think, next week to come and sit with the board and have some discussions on things that should inform the set of priorities and objectives for the next 5 years. We're on pace to introduce that plan at the board's public meeting on December 6th.
Separate. Any other questions, concerns, Neil, for those 3 items?
No questions for
Nope. Okay, I'm looking to see if we can do a consent agenda item from 2, 3, and 4
You
at
certainly
once.
can.
Okay, let's do that. So moved by Councillor Allard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks.
Up next is the verbal report for East of the Red Recplex. Who do we have here? Hello. Morning. Welcome. This is the last one.
I wasn't gonna bring that up, Chair, just in case you ask for more, but thanks for putting that right out there.
The last one.
Good morning, Chair. Makes me think there's time for new business.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. East of the Red Recplex, verbal update, preliminary design has been completed. The public engagement process has also been completed. The design with the engagement results are available on the project website, and the final summary report will be
Posted later today.
The facility has been designed to meet LEED Silver and Zero Carbon Building certification standards. Once constructed, this project will include the decommissioning of Transcona Kinsman Indoor Pool and development of new change facilities to support the ongoing operation of Transcona Aquatic Park. The cost estimate is currently 155.5 million, assuming construction would begin in 2028, and this is a Class 3 cost estimate. Council approval and funding is required to proceed with detailed design and construction, which are the next steps. There's currently 15 million for the project forecasted in capital budget and CMS's capital budget, 5 million next year and 10 million in 2027. The rest of the budget, however, is unfunded. And at this point, the current phase of this project has been completed. That is the verbal update.
And remind me again, okay, so the East of the Red Recplex includes what? Like does it have the daycare? It has a new indoor pool. Is that correct? So just high level gym,
Yeah.
like it has quite a bit of components to it.
It includes a childcare facility, it includes 2 full-size gymnasiums that can be configured in multiple ways, walking track, fitness facility, aquatic center consisting of a lap tank and a leisure pool with slides, lazy river, kind of something that we actually don't really have in our asset inventory at this moment. And it's attached to the Transcontinental Library.
So it's quite a
It's a very
Very
substantial project.
substantial.
Yeah.
Much bigger, okay. Any other questions?
I just heard in terms of the similar situations in St. Boniface, in terms of just talking about decommissioning the pool, it's like existing in operations in Transcona?
Decommissioning the indoor pool
Yes.
and maintaining the operation of the outdoor pool.
Okay, so the indoor pool is currently operational.
It is.
When the way that's phrased, when this new center is built and the pool is operating there, that is when the decommissioning would occur at the existing site?
Yeah,
Okay.
we've pushed it out in time a couple of years to try to make sure that transition happens.
All right.
Should we be asking for further verbal reports? Because the way it's listed, this would be the last one.
Yeah, this is the last one. I think, back us up again, why we were looking at quarterly verbal reports. This is before my time. I was chair.
Definitely before my time as well. I guess at this point, we've completed all the work planned right now. Until there is a council or a budget commitment for the full ask, which would be the next level, there's really will be no more work going on this project.
Okay, so it'd be pointless to do another verbal report until it's been approved. Okay.
This council.
And I think there was a previous member on here that was the ward counselor that was looking for it, so. And I'm assuming that you're keeping him also in the loop of what has been transpired.
Definitely.
Are you hearing some positive feedback that he's supportive of the project moving forward with no verbal reports or anything like that?
We have kept the area councillor advised the project, and I believe he's very supportive of it. At this point, as we discussed, this preliminary work is complete, so there really is nothing for us to report on until council makes a decision on funding the project or not.
Madam Chair, I would move this for information, given I think at this point the work's been done, it's a budgetary consideration.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, so moved.
Okay, all in favor of Councilor Mallon's motion? Okay.
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 6, it's an extension of time. I do have, I don't know if you guys have any questions for, but it's just an extension of time. Otherwise, if you don't need the administration here.
I'll move extension of time.
Okay, move extension of time for 60 days.
Yes, just for committee's benefit, the request for extension does state that it goes to council, but approval here is sufficient. It doesn't need to go to council.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried. Moving on to item 7, restoring community connections at Millennium Library. I believe these were motions from the community committee. The next 2 are actually from community committee. And I
Nice.
think we do have people from the public service to come up and respond. I do have some questions actually, so. Morning.
Morning.
I'm here alone. Erin Borland, our manager of recreation or library services, isn't able to join us today, so. Okay, so what we're seeing here is motions for a verbal report on the Millennium Library with respect to community connections, space and lobby renovations. I think if you could first, I want to talk about, the next one talks about community safety hosts, so maybe I'll ask that question. Could you walk us through or just explain the community connection space piece? I believe it was last year we talked about it at budget time. we discontinued the program at Community Connections. However, the community safety host and crisis workers were still being funded, but it was more inside the library.
Mhm.
And then we had leased the space, the office space. Is it an office space? Would we call it an office space or just leased?
It's a lease.
It's a lease of the space to the Downtown Community Safety Partnership.
Correct.
Yeah, so just kind of walk through the timeline again.
All right, so the community connection space as a library service was discontinued on December 31st, 2024. DCSP, the Downtown Community Safety Partnership, provided proposal that was accepted by council, and it was a pilot program. And as a result, they have been operating as a tenant through a lease with the real estate division since April. And they are currently operating Monday to Friday, 1 to 4. And the library services staff are continuing to be proactive about learning what services DCSP is offering and how their work could impact the services inside the library. We are interested in, of course, maximum benefit for visitors to the library. So we'll continue to work with DCSP as we move this forward. And one of the things that we've requested was one of the most frequently used services in the previous space was the use of a public phone. So we made that request to DCSP if that's something that they can offer. But as for, you know, what services they are specifically providing and what their future plans are, I can't really speak to that. I think they could be requested to provide an update on their pilot and what they plan on doing. I don't know what committee that would be.
I don't think DCSB necessarily reports to the city of Winnipeg.
No,
So-
they don't report to us either.
Yeah, okay. And then the employees that were in the community connection space, remind me again, who were they again? They were,
There was 4.2 FTEs, and I can't remember exactly, but they were library services staff.
Yeah.
And one crisis worker.
okay, so we've heard some rumblings from the union that they were not there anymore and were like let go, but that's not true. The FTEs are still,
No, the FTEs were deleted.
okay,
And in the staff then that were directly affected by that were then able to apply for other positions within the library service. Okay. But the 4.2 FTEs were deleted.
right, okay. For the lobby renovation, we had done a feasibility study in the past. And I think we're still waiting for some reporting. But since then, there has been some unfortunate incidences that have occurred in the library.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding some renos have been done, or temporary measure renos had been done. Could you speak to that?
Right.
Just give us an
So you're
update on
talking about,
that.
so since the Labor Day weekend at Millennium Library, we installed some temporary safety fencing. And it was installed along the railings of the 3rd and the 4th floor of the Millennium Library. It is only a temporary measure though, until an architectural design can be reached with approved funding. So we have engaged LM Architectural Group, who were the designers of Millennium Millennium Library. So we are just awaiting what their proposal is for a more permanent solution moving forward.
And that doesn't that's not including any upgrades that is required to the lobby area. No. So we're still waiting so that's kind of a separate piece. Was it ever part of the feasibility study,
Well, the railings only became, over the summer since August that we were looking at what we can do with the railings, because that's the inside of the library. The Millennium Lobby redesign report has been completed. It has been submitted. It's not been funded. But I do hear, which is certainly up to council with their 2026 budget, is that there is potential for funding for a permanent solution to the railings, and potentially some funds towards the lobby space.
You guys looking for any other updates?
Well, so this is coming from the community committee.
A verbal report on the Millennium Library, so.
Okay. And have we gotten that?
I'm assuming this would be the
verbal
report.
So to clarify, what the community committee is asking is for the public service to go back to community committee and provide a verbal update there. Because the public service doesn't generally do that, so this committee would have to direct the public service to make that happen. So that's what the community committee recommendation is.
Public service doesn't report to community committee.
Exactly.
That's is this the first we've ever seen this request?
Oh, I've seen the several requests before.
Okay.
Yes, there has been similar requests, but this particular one, this is the very first that I've seen of this one, yes.
I'm inclined to just accept the verbal report as is.
As information, perhaps we can ask the public service to follow up with the area committee councilors, let them know that there has been a report at community committee. That'd be appropriate.
No, they would that a verbal report was done at the standing committee.
Right. That's what I mean. So that the councilors are informed that yes, we did have the conversation at the appropriate body, which is the standing policy committee. Because taking it as information I don't want it to sound submissive. I don't want it to sound dismissive of the request, because we've gotten an update and we understand the standing policy committee to be the appropriate place to hear this. So perhaps next time when there are questions, they may want to move it and come to committee and ask them questions themselves.
So we will receive the verbal report of the Winnipeg Public Service as information.
Yeah. With that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to another motion that came from City Center, update on the Cindy Clausen pool. Another verbal update regarding the community safety hosts. So yeah, again, I kind of touched light a little bit on the community safety hosts on the Millennium Library. So my question would be, can you talk to us about the program, the community safety host program that's at the Millennium Library and at the other libraries?
So the Community Safety Host Program is an Indigenous-led, people-centered alternative to traditional security guards that address the need for access to public spaces and systems while providing meaningful employment for young people aging out of care and others with lived experience with poverty, homelessness, and other forms of exclusion. So in addition to 40 hours of security guard training, which is the standard requirement for licensing in Manitoba, the community safety hosts also receive an additional 130 hours of training focused on compassion and understanding about how trauma impacts people, acknowledging and addressing the root causes of oppression, and accepting people as they are. For example, by helping to reduce the harm of substance use instead of rejecting people who use it. So they make very meaningful connections with library visitors, building relationships that allow them to successfully de-escalate in calm situations. And they also direct they directly connect people to the resource that they need. So the quarterly report the incident report that community services has been providing does include a lot of this same information about what our community safety hosts do. Now, that said, they are not City of Winnipeg employees. And we currently have Person-Centered Solutions as the employer of the community safety hosts. And we currently have 5 at Millennium Library. And then we have 5 others that are assigned to St. Boniface, St. John's Library, Cornish Library, and Osborne. So, but I think the motion was about having community safety hosts at the Cindy Clausen Rec Center, which we have not had. So what happened though is Person-Centered Community Solutions contacted through myself and Karen Borland with Jen Sarna, our manager of recreation, because they wanted another opportunity for their community safety hosts to hold their in-field training within a recreation facility for them to complete their practicum. So we had this past summer, a community safety host in training attended the site with a supervisor 3 days a week and provided some on-site mentorship and coaching as they learned that role. There was no cost to the Department for Recreation Services to participate. It was very welcomed by the community. It was a good opportunity for the training for the community safety hosts, and it met their particular needs. And the next session that they're looking for another practicum location is going to be in January.
Okay, so there was never a assigned community safe host at the Cindy Clausen?
No.
Okay.
We just had the one training practicum that they provided in the summer.
Are there opportunities for the 5 community safety hosts to rotate amongst, or are they just particularly assigned to those for places?
They do. So there's libraries and there's recreation, right? So currently, pardon me, the safety hosts are working in our libraries, and they do rotate. So, for example, I mean, the sites that I had mentioned are, let's just say, the places where we feel that they are the most needed. But if there is a need somewhere else, then yes, they can be rotate to another place.
Okay. Would that be done through the request through your office department or the manager of libraries?
Well, that's together that would be the libraries determining where they're most needed.
Cindy Clausen has a library.
Cindy Clausen has the Harvey Smith Library.
Okay.
It is one of the smaller branches.
Okay. But there is an opportunity that possibly a community safety host could go to that library.
If it was needed.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any questions with respect to community safety hosts?
Well, this feels akin to the previous motion. We've had a conversation. Motion came from community committee. Hopefully the community committee members have seen the information they were looking for. And with that, I think I'll move this for information, as this is the standing policy committee responsible for this issue. And if there needs be more information in the future, another motion could be moved to community committee and consider here again.
Okay, sounds good.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried. Moving on to item number 9, proposed relocation of the future spray pad from Bruce Park to Port Air. I believe this was done through our colleague, Councillor Dobson.
Yeah.
Do you want a high level?
Yes, a high
update?
level.
High level update from the department first?
Yeah,
Before
sure.
we move into motions? Okay.
All
let's
right,
do
I'll
that.
let Sandra do that.
Good morning, councillors, again. So we were requested by the committee to look at the potential of a new spray pad at the Port Air Community Center site. And this report deals with the possibility of that. It basically provides the rationale that was used to help originally select Bruce Park as the recommended location for the spray pad. And then applies that similar set of criteria to the Board Air Community Center site. The main takeaways of the report are that both locations meet the policy context of the Winnipeg Recreation Strategy. They are relatively comparable in cost, although there are differences between the two sites in terms of what it would take to make the spray pad work at each location. And so no matter which location was ultimately selected, currently Bruce Park is within the council approved spray pad investment program. So it would take the council decision to make the shift. But regardless, whichever shift was made, in order to maintain the operating budget as approved, these wading pools that were shown as being decommissioned would still need to be decommissioned. So there would be 3 wading pools that are decommissioned in light of the project. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, I think both locations provide great opportunity for the community. They're just slightly different in terms of the opportunities they provide.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, if I could make a couple of comments.
Sure.
When I look at the spray pad at Bruce, or not, when I look at the spray pad south of Portage Avenue, I look at the fact that to cross Portage Avenue, for those people on the north side, they have to go to either Linwood or to Rutland, where the satellites are. So it really doesn't service the people north of Portage Avenue. There is no community club close by. It's quite a ways away. The daycares, I'm not sure if there's any daycares on that side of Portage Avenue that I can think of right now. So when I look at the Board Air site, it is in the general area, but it does have a school right next to it. It does have numerous daycares, one in the school, and then one across the street from the school, as in Discovery Children's Center. So that would be a tremendous amount of people that would be using the spray pad. Another way to look at it is right now on Portage Avenue, we have 2 spray pads that are accessible. In St. James, we have the Centennial Pool, and then we have the Sturgeon Heights Community Club, or Golden Gate Park, whichever you want to call it. So if you were in that area, anywhere on Portage, you can take a bus to a spray pad. So I don't feel that we need a third one. And on another way of looking at it, if you look at the Board Air Community Club, it also has adequate parking. And that's a huge thing, having parking so that people can drive there if they so require. Plus, there's a tremendous amount of people in the community that could access it that are far away from Portage Avenue, as in Ness. Could be quite a walk from Ness, but better than a walk from Portage. Anyway, those are the reasons why I feel that we should move it to Board Air. And I'll let everyone else make their comments.
I'll ask for Councillor Dobson.
The area councillor, he knows his area better and supportive of, you know, what was written in the report.
And then
But it looks like the only way we could relocate the planned spray pad is we would require an amendment to the budget sheet. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, so right now I just see it as receiving as information. I think Councillor Dobson has an amendment, which would then proceed to council. Now, I'm just looking to the clerk. Does that require a 2/3 vote on this particular item because we're changing the budget sheet?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so just a majority is fine?
Yes.
Okay. Then-
Okay.
we have delegate authority to do this.
It would have to go to council
Oh,
because we're amending an already adopted budget.
okay.
Yep.
And the financial impact for you?
There is no financial impact.
I just see thinking better and.
Oh,
Yeah,
Votes.
it wasn't a question actually about
No.
the financial impact.
Okay.
It was more about the motion, if it would just be referred to the budget process for amendment.
It could be, however, the motion that the councillor has brought forward would just be to change the budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's what you would like, Councilor Nelson?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a motion already prepared.
Sure. You want to read it into the record?
I sure can.
Okay.
I would move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service not be concurred in, and that the Standing Policy Committee on Community Service recommend the following to council. Number one, that the spray pad investment program, as contained on page 117 of the supplement to the 2025 preliminary budget and approved by council on January 29, 2025, be amended by relocating the spray pad located at Bruce Park to Board Air Community Center. Number two, that the proper officer of the city to be authorized to do all things necessary to fulfill the intent of the foregoing.
Anything to debate? I'm good with it. Okay. Sounds good. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Great, thank you. We'll proceed to council. All right, seeing there's no new business.
I move adjournment.
To consent agenda adjournment, moved by Councillor Allard for 11:01 a.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.